Good morning and welcome to our Solihull Chambers of Commerce Queen's Award for Enterprise webinar. We're so pleased to have you with us this morning, and we're going to be talking to you about the what, the why, the who, the when and the how of the Queen's Awards. We've got some fantastic guests with us this morning that I'll be introducing to you. First of all, we're going to be chatting to Chris Loughran, Head of Solihull Group Deputy Lieutenants. Then we're going to be speaking to a judge of the Queen's Awards, Leslie Batchelor. We're going to round off with some Q&A and some final thoughts. We're going to be wrapping up in around an hour's time. Now, before we move on to the Queen's Award, I'm not going to read out all of these to you. We've got some fantastic chamber events coming up that we'd like to draw your attention to. Really big one is going to be that Festival of Business coming up next month, taking place in across the wider Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce. So please do get yourself involved in those. Listen, we've got lots of optimism this year, but it's going to be hard work too. So please do use the resources of the Chamber, join our events, get some of the thought leadership like you're going to experience today from around the Chamber, and really give your business that turbo boost it's going to need this year. Now, within the Greater Birmingham Chambers of Commerce, 4 different businesses were awarded the Queen's Award for Enterprise, and we've listed those businesses there for you. Perinatal Institute Birmingham, Guy Cat Solutions Limited, K&B Shipping in Dudley, and 3P Innovation in Warwick. But we'd like to see a lot more. Certainly, this is one of the best regions for business and industry in the UK. And at this point, I'd like to bring Chris in to chat to you about this and how indeed we can deliver even better results. Now, Chris, I know you best from your time at Deloitte, from the Birmingham Solihull Bees, and recently at the LEP. But can you tell me, first of all, a little bit about your role as a Deputy Lieutenant and what that actually means, and how you're involved, talking to us about the Queen's Award?
Happily, Tony. Thank you. I cannot begin, though, but first of all, by thanking my friends at the Chamber, for Tony, Sam and Grace, who have approached hosting today's webinar and have approached it so enthusiastically and helpfully. Tony mentioned that I'm a Deputy Lieutenant in the county of the West Midlands. Some of you will be very familiar with the Lieutenancy, but others may not be, so bear with me a second. What does the Lieutenancy do? Well, the Lord Lieutenant is the Queen's representative in the county of the West Midlands, and he's supported by a team of deputies, because our West Midlands is quite a large area, as you will appreciate. I'm proud to be a member of that team, and I'm responsible for his work in Solihull, where I've lived now, despite my accent, for over 50 years. The Lieutenancy is involved in a variety of community roles and activities. I'll mention a few of them now, but there's much more to see if you wish to go on the Lieutenancy website. We're responsible for arranging and supporting royal visits, and you'll know that from time to time we're fortunate to have visits from members of the royal family to businesses in the area and to other establishments, hospitals and the like. The Lieutenancy is also responsible for advising on nominations and honours through the public honours system. One of our members here today, one of our speaking panels, actually got one of those, so congratulations. And we're also responsible, and here's the purpose of today's seminar, we're responsible for identifying organisations that could be considered for the Queen's Award for Enterprise. So today's webinar is about promoting interest in applying for such awards. As Leslie will go on to tell us later, this is a recognition award. It's recognition for things already achieved. It's not a sort of knockout competition. It's actually recognising the tremendous work and achievement and accomplishments of the businesses across the county. But Leslie will say far more about that. I've only got one slide for you today, and I'd like to ask Grace to show that now. And it's really a call to action. You'll see that in an unorthodox way, time here goes from left to right. So the oldest ones are on the right-hand side, and you'll see the number of Queen's Awards for enterprise that were awarded nationally across that timeline. So from 101 in 2015, 254, peak in 2016, and then most recently 205. That next row looks at the West Midlands region. That's the 6 counties of the West Midlands, from Staffordshire in the north to Herefordshire down the southwest. And there you can see we run from 12, 25 to 17. But here's the rub. The West Midlands County, which is Coventry, Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Solihull, and the Black Country towns of Walsall, Sandwell, and Dudley, right, only achieved 4 awards last year. And even in the peak year of 2016, only achieved 11. Now, that's not a reflection on the quality of our businesses. We know we've got great businesses, and particularly here in Solihull, I know the Chamber membership, and it's a thriving group. So it's really about engaging with this process in order to get proper recognition for the West Midlands. One thing I've learned since I came down to the West Midlands, as I say, over 50 years ago, is that compared to some other parts of the country, we're not always quite as good as banging the drum for what we've achieved, right? And if any of you find that offensive, it's not meant to be. I think occasionally we hide our light under a bushel, and today is my appeal for us to change that and just engage with the process and demonstrate the wonderful work that our businesses are doing across the region. I was going to say more today about the Queen's Award to Enterprise, but thanks to my colleague, Andrea Crowther, whose face you can see on the screen. Andrea looks after the whole honours system for Solihull, amongst her other work. But thanks to Angela, we found somebody who's much better qualified to talk about the Queen's Award for Enterprise. And that's Leslie Batchelor, who's been on the judging panel for the awards for over 12 years. Tony, back to you to introduce Leslie properly.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so, I mean, how better to find out how you can win a Queen's Award, represent your region, represent Solihull, than to have a judge, Leslie Crowther OBE, with us to tell us all about it. I mean, when we looked at it on the face of it, first of all, West Midlands looked pretty good until we drilled down and found out that actually the West Midlands County was only 4. I think on the wider map for the West Midlands, it looks better. And we all know some fantastic businesses, as Chris alluded to earlier, that really are deserving of such a title. Leslie, what really is involved, and what are you looking for as a judge in the Queen's Awards for Enterprise?
Well, we do have a presentation, and thanks for all those kind words. And I do want to encourage you all to think about people that you know that are doing some great work. I was very, very thrilled in 2014 when I got a letter offering me an OBE and asking if I'd accept it, which is one of those wonderful things where you go, whoa, but I had no idea. And when I went to the palace to pick it up, one of the nicest things of all was I was chatting to ballet teachers, I was talking to, people that had worked in councils, really everybody. And there was one lovely lady who actually didn't quite have enough train fare to get her family to come as well. But, just think about all those special people out there that because that's what the MBEs and the OBEs are all about. And the forms are all there online. So what are we doing? So I was very lucky. I used to run the Institute of Export and International Trade. I had a lifetime working in international trade. And when they asked me if I'd like to join the judging panel, I was thrilled. So shall we go on to the next slide and let's talk a little bit about this, because of course, this is a really prestigious award for UK businesses, so that's the whole union. And this is the Queen tweeting about it, which is just spectacular, isn't it? So having watched the awards established in my name grow in stature and influence, I continue to be impressed by the way that they have given opportunity to big organisations and small, enabling them to project themselves on the world stage. And I think that especially is what it's all about. It's all about projecting, UK businesses and explaining how well they've done and what they've achieved. And, she is a wonderful woman. And I've been lucky enough to go to Buckingham Palace, and she makes time for everybody, and it's wonderful. So, you know, absolutely. And they have a 3-line whip. If the royal is in London, they have to attend that reception. So it's about 400 people there. It's not a big reception, so it's very, very personal. Can we have the next slide, please? So this is some background to the awards, because there are actually now 4 awards. And I'll just run through them. And I think, again, it just emphasises what Chris and Tony were saying. This is about outstanding achievements of UK businesses, and it's looking at innovation, international trade, sustainable development, and now promoting opportunity through social mobility. And what I'll do is, I've got the criteria for each one of those, but obviously I can only really talk with real authority about what goes on with the international trade. But I think the processes are very, very similar. So, you know, let's hope that you're all interested enough to find out what's going on. And there is a little link there at the bottom about the tools for the leaflets, etc. And I'm pretty sure Sam and Grace are going to share those with everybody that's attended. So that'd be great. So they are, oh, thank you. This is an explanation as what you get. And obviously there is the flag, and you're allowed to fly the flag of the Queen's Awards for enterprise for 5 years. And that really is a great thing. And it shows to the outside world and anybody visiting you what you've achieved. It's really important also to remember that this is a globally recognized brand, and often, you know, you have the Lord Lieutenant visiting you, or one of their deputies will come out, and there's a lot of photographs, there's a lot of energy behind it. And most importantly, I think it's a really great morale boost for the staff. And I've been to some of these parties, I've been lucky enough to have been invited, and my goodness, it's a really great occasion. And these, the Lord Lieutenants, we'll see some pictures in a minute about them. They will all be dressed up in their official uniforms as well, no matter how hot it is outside. So that's, you know, try and feel for them on that. And then the representatives, about 3 representatives can go to the royal reception at Buckingham Palace, which is where those guys are standing with their flag. So next slide, please. Okay, so the eligibility criteria: your company must be based in the UK. That means you've got to file tax returns within HMRC. You've also got to be a self-contained enterprise. And have at least 2 full-time employees or part-time equivalents, and demonstrate strong corporate social responsibility. So all of these awards ask you about your CSR. They all want to hear what you're doing. You know, it's part of the criteria. It all gets a certain amount. I think it's around about 10 to 20% is actually judged on that. So again, just make sure you've got something to talk about, even if it's just working with the local school. I say just, I mean, that's a very important thing to do. So can I have the next slide? So the award cycle works, and they've already opened for applications. So you've got lots of time. The application process closes on the 8th of September. And what will happen then is, you know, there will be time during that application process where we need to do things, and perhaps if you haven't filled in something quite right, you might get somebody from the Queen's Awards office just say, I wonder if you could clarify something. So there's always contact that goes through. Once the application is actually accepted, then there's a process of a couple of months where the assessors will spend time reading through all the applications. And, you know, take some time with this, because I'm just going to explain to you what people are looking for. And it is important to make sure you actually tell a story, because, you know, we all look at these things from a sort of a blank screen. So we don't know where you've come from. We don't know all your details. So it's important to make sure your entries are clear on that. During November, we do due diligence. So we check people's accounts, etc., so that we make sure that it's clear that they've actually achieved what they think they've achieved. And then it goes to the panel of judges, which is what I'm part of there. So I get probably about a month before a judging day, I get a big folder, and believe me, it's huge, and it is full to the brim of the international trade entries. Now, sometimes it is whittled down, so you'll be in a situation where I think last year we had about 600 entries that got through to one stage, but actually after due diligence, etc., we got down to, I think in the end it was about 122 that actually went through. Now, if they don't get through because their achievements aren't quite as clarified as they want them to be, there's always feedback for those unsuccessful applicants, and always encouragement to apply again the following year, because once you've understood what it is that isn't quite right, you know, and this is why it's really important to understand what's needed and what the criteria really means. So perhaps we can have a look at the next slide, please. Here we go. So we're calling them winners. I call them achievers. I think it's really important that these people are being recognised for what they've done. You don't have to win something exactly. And you can see there we've got the West Midlands with the numbers that Chris was showing us, showing 17. And honestly, I think the density of your business populations, I think you're right. You should be aiming for many, many more up there. And we're really hoping you can perhaps find some more of your creative industries to get involved with this. You know, we look at the TV and we've got the sewing bee, that's brilliant. We've also got the jewelry, the program All That Glitters. We're beginning to recognize these things more and more. And I think, you know, the creative industries really, I'd love to see more of those coming through from especially on the international trade side of things. So 2,205 winners in total, 5 double winners. That means that they've entered in for perhaps innovation and international trade, or innovation and promoting mobility. 92% of the winners are SMEs. And if you think about it, you know, as a country, we have around about 5 million businesses. 4.8 million of those are SMEs. So we really, this isn't a particularly good representation, and we're pretty sure there's more and more people out there. So if you're listening to this and you know somebody else that might be interested, do spread the word, because it's not a question of somebody just winning and there's only one winner. It's about fulfilling the criteria and actually being recognised for your achievements. Should we have the next slide, please, Grace? There we go. So last year we had 122 international trade winners, 48 innovation winners, 17 development winners, and 18 promoting opportunity winners. You know, there must be many, many more companies out there. So we'd love to have the Queen's Walls, Andrea, I can't quite see her face, but we want you flooded with applications. Next slide, please. And this is what happens. You get this fabulous charter that the Lord Lieutenant comes and reads out to you. And I've actually met the gentleman in the middle there a couple of times. And what we do normally is obviously support you wherever we can, but it's about your staff, because your staff are the people that have won this. And, you know, very occasionally, the royal family will come out and engage with this, as well as you can see with Princess Anne. But predominantly it's about you really celebrating the successes of your business. Next slide, please. So some of the top tips for what we're going on, and this is across all criteria, and then we're looking some more detail about what the criteria is and for each of those categories, and then hopefully we can take some questions and answers and help you all getting yourselves filling these forms in. So first of all, check the criteria and the eligibility online. All of it is done online now, so you know there's a lot of feedback there, and you can talk to human beings if you want to, I promise. Plan your responses by downloading the PDF application form. And I know it sounds very straight, it sounds a bit condescending, but yeah, just use plain English. We're not looking for, it's not an essay that we're looking for, but what we're looking for is something who communicates clearly what it is they've done and why they think they really deserve to win this achievement award. So provide some evidence. So, you know, if you're telling them that you've done something, rather explain why you can prove that you've done that, because that's really going to help bolster the application tremendously. And we say tell your story because, you know, it's really fascinating for us when we get hold of people's applications forms, and you find that people have studied together and this is where they've done that. And I mean, I was listening to a story the other day about Lush you know, Lush, the smelly perfume things. And this guy, he'd retired, and he was sitting with a mate of his, and he said, oh, you know, I really like to start a business. I thought we might start a market stall somewhere. And he'd got this great thing where he found that if you mixed an Alka-Seltzer tablet with some perfume, made it into this sort of bomb, it would fizz, and it would be, you know, and here they are, multi-million international company. So, you know, these things, those sort of stories really give us some feeling about, you know, the journey everyone's been on. So add some details about people that collaborated with you and helped you on your way. That's always lovely. And we say allow sufficient time. You don't leave it to the last minute to put your application in, just in case there is something that is missing, so we can give you that time to feedback. You've got from May to September. It's a great amount of time, but don't think, oh, I'll do that tomorrow all the time, because let's face it, that's what we all do, isn't it? And if you have got, obviously you're going to have to produce quantitative information about what's going on. So we need to see books. We will need to see your audited accounts, or you can, if you're a smaller business, you can actually have them just signed by an accountant or an independent person. So again, don't think it's intrusive. It's very much a question that, you know, if you're saying you've achieved these things, you will have to show us that you have, especially if you're going to fly something that actually means the Queen has, you know, is proud of you. And we want that to go across the whole country, you know, and when people are traveling around the world, it has this great depth. In fact, sometimes I think the Queen's Awards for Enterprise has more significance internationally than it does here in the UK, and perhaps we need to do a bit of work on that as well. And can we have the next slide, please, Grace? So, as far as innovation is concerned, this is the guidance that you have to follow. And I mean, it may sound a little bit complex, and I suppose a lot of people with patents are going to find that this is really going to be a great you know, a coup for them, because it's easier to explain something that's got a patent on it as being innovative. But you've got to have an innovation that's not been sold before. That's innovative. And you've also got to make sure that it's been available for a couple of years, so that you've got some evidence to prove that it's actually fulfilling a need, and that it's not just an idea for the sake of an idea. And that's really where the patents come in as well, isn't it? And also that you've recovered all the investment. Now, we recognise, you know, that people will be in first stages sometimes of an investment program. You've got to be beginning to demonstrate that you're paying back investments, or you've got a full plan to do that. And again, that goes back to being really clear what it is and what your plans are and how you're doing it. You know, it's not something where you can be vague. You've got to be specific about these things. You've got to show outstanding commercial success over those 2 years. And in some cases, if you want to, you can actually show a continuous success over 5 years. Most of them have, the international trade one has one over a few years as well. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So the innovation should be one of the following categories. So it's an invention, it's a design, or a production of goods. It could be a performance of services, so something unique in the way of a new service that you're offering. Obviously, Greensill wouldn't achieve that any longer, but, you know, that's something a little bit different, you know, in terms of services. Marketing and distribution, after-sales support of goods or services, thinking of a new way of supporting goods. That's a great idea, especially as we're all moving into the online provisions, so much so now. If you're helping people internationally, especially, it's great to be able to have some new ideas there. So your story, it's got to be what the situation was before your invention, the challenges that you've actually overcome, because we all have to face a lot of challenges, especially when you're trying to fund these sort of ideas. And then you've got to say why your innovation is unique. And finally, how your innovation benefits your business, customers, and others. So that's quite a lot to fulfill, but it's very clear what is needed, and it helps you when you're fulfilling the application form to actually know that you fit that criteria. So can we move on to the next slide, please? So international trade, this is nice and straightforward. So you apply for this award, you have to have a minimum of £100,000 in overseas sales in the first year of your entry. And then you have to show a year-on-year growth. You have to prove that your organisation has achieved outstanding growth in overseas earnings, and it's got to be relative to the size of your business and within the sector. And when we're looking at these things, we do look at some certain sectors, and we recognise that, you know, some people are able to make much higher margins than others. So it's very much, you know, we've linked it into the sector codes, and we are linking it into expected and projected performance of that sector, so we can measure it against that as well. Then you have to prove a steep year-on-year without dips growth in the overseas sales for either 3 years, or if you're looking for the more substantial continuous growth award, then that's 6 years. But again, you can have a dip, but you've got to be very careful to project the right amount. You can't go below the 100,000. It's worth just checking your figures, but you know, often businesses are doing a lot better than we imagine on their exports. So your story, again, why is the penetration of your particular market an achievement? We want to know more about how you found that market. We want to know that you've researched things and that you're developing your business in some way. And it's a story you're telling us. You're telling us about your business and what you've achieved in your business. And we want to know what strategies you adopted, because we can all learn from that. And hopefully, as you get awarded these awards for achieving this, you can share that with other people. And there's a great magazine that comes out that talks about this, so it encourages hopefully other people to get involved as well. So why is your performance better than that of your competitors? Actually, we don't really mind too much about your competitors, because it's about you and your achievements. But it's interesting for us to see how you manage to differentiate yourself in new markets. And then finally, what challenges have affected your trade and how you've overcome. Well, I mean, obviously, there's going to be a huge amount of disruption around both Brexit and the COVID pandemic. So I'll explain to you how we're making those mitigations towards the end. And next slide, please, Grace. Okay, so promoting opportunity. This is quite a new award. And again, this is very much to show that your organisation has supported people from a disadvantaged background. I should point out that this is different from corporate social responsibility, but it's all linked. All the other awards, we ask about corporate social responsibility, but this one is specifically for promoting opportunity to disadvantaged people, hoping to improve people's opportunities for job skills and for actually advancing them and increasing their mobility in the workforce. So this includes doing one or more of the following things for at least 2 years, and that's providing work experience or careers advice, mentoring, offering interview and job-related training, making sure your recruitment process is open and diverse as possible. So you'll need to prove the benefits for the people you've supported, so some sort of testimonials, that type of thing, your organisation, your employees and the wider community. And often when you get involved with this type of programme, you find that you engage more and more with lots of different local communities and local charities that you can have. So the application form branches out into 2 separate sections, and it shows the eligibility questions here. So the organisation whose core aim is social mobility to answer questions specifically for them, and those who instead have a specific programme or initiative to answer some of the questions tailored for them. So you'll see when you get onto the website that there is clarity there, and we think that we've got really well-designed forms, but you know, do check your eligibility here, because in actual fact, if you have a corporate social responsibility programme, you may already be doing a lot of this anyway. So can I have the next slide, please? So finally, the 4th one is about sustainable development, and you must actually have the ability to show that you've achieved outstanding sustainable development for more than 2 years, and also provide evidence of benefit or positive outcomes of your actions or interactions. So I personally haven't actually ever judged this one, so I'm not quite sure how this all works, but if you've got your innovative product that's going to make a difference in terms of environment, sustaining development in your organization, making sure you've got a supply chain that supports the community or an international market. These type of things are, you know, really about really proving that you've got a sustainable development program for your business. So your story has to be about what you're doing to be sustainable, you're doing compared with your competitors, how you're leading the way and influencing others about being more sustainable. And then finally, this whole thing around restore, recycle, regenerate, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. You're going to need evidence that you're engaged with this, and you're going to be asked questions and asked to produce testimonials, etc. The great thing about all of these things are, you know, as we talked about, there were only 5, I think, double winners, but in actual fact, a lot of people are doing these things as well. So if you're entering for one award, it's quite often the case that there'll be another award that you can do. And just to give Andrea a plug for her honours system as well, and there'll be one person perhaps driving that should be singled out for as an individual that deserves a special achievement award. So, you know, think about all these things and have a look at what's going on, because nothing's off the table. So what's the can I have the next slide, please? Sorry. So how to apply? Okay, all UK businesses, including non-for-profit, can apply. The process is free. Everything's done online. We talked about that, didn't we, a minute ago? And you can apply for more than one category. That's what I was trying to explain. So the application process has already started, and then it will close on the 8th of September. And if you want full details, I know that Sam and Chris and Grace will be giving out all these things, but, you know, do go online, just have a look at it all. It's all there for you. And I think we've got another slide, Grace. There we go. So because 2022 is going to be affected really badly by, you know, the terrible COVID and the huge disruption that we've been through as a country and as a world, you know, we need to think about how this is going to have. So, of course, the eligibility criteria can't change, but applicants can manually import financial years. And that means that they can wind back a year so that last year doesn't count. So if you've been really badly affected in 2020 by the pandemic, and let's face it, huge numbers of companies have been, or they've been affected by storms or flooding, you know, actually what we can do is actually gauge it from 2015 to 2019 instead of 16 to 20. So we're being as flexible as we can around this, and also you can submit figures over a shorter amount of time if you want. You know, so for instance, for 3 years instead of the 6 years that we normally ask for international trade, and 2 years rather than 5 for innovation. So we're trying to meet everybody halfway on this. We still want people to benefit from being awarded a Queen's Award. We want you to engage on it, and, you know, we need to put 2020 behind us, don't we, really? So we've also been granted special discretion for all the assessors, so that they actually can see that there's a commercial success there, even if something pretty disastrous has happened in 2020. So, you know, don't be downhearted about this. We're all fed up to the back teeth with it, and we know that you guys have been doing brilliant work despite this, and actually you've performed well, even though these have been terribly challenging times for everyone. So please do take this all in mind. We're human. We know that this isn't a machine that you're running there. You know, if something's gone wrong, please do apply anyway. And one more slide, I think, is there. There we go. And this is how to contact the Queen's Awards office, but obviously you've got contacts with Sam and Grace, Chris and Tony. So I think that's everything I've got to say. I hope I didn't drivel on for too long. Any questions?
Well, we've got some great questions that have popped up. Thank you so much for that, Leslie. That was really insightful. And I think for somebody who sits on some judging panels myself, for somebody that has sent multiple award applications in the past, I think something that really impressed me was just how clear the criteria is, the amount of detail to give you the best possible chance of, I mean, you've got a good way of gauging whether you're going to have some success or not, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Something that particularly stood out to me was the sustainability awards, and I think you're going to see an application coming from Touchwood here in Solihull for that.
Brilliant.
There's some great benefits in there as well. I mean, the fact that you carry this award for 5 years is superb, isn't it? That it's not, sometimes by the time an award gets announced, you seem to be applying for the next one again. And I thought it was great that not only do you carry that emblem for 5 years, but it's internationally recognised as well. Why do you think that it's perhaps better known on the world stage than locally?
I think it's been diluted a little bit by the banks running award systems and chambers, and even the government have run award schemes as well. And I think it's, from my point of view, I firmly believe that if we all collaborate on all these things, it would be much better for everybody. I think we need to get behind each other rather than go ploughing our own furrows. Whereas, internationally, people recognise the royal family, they recognise the monarchy very, very easily. And very often, when the companies are at the Buckingham Palace Award thing, there's a photographer there, and if you can get a photograph with one of the royals, I've seen them used all over the place. So it's a very powerful message to say that the Queen actually recognises you. It's
absolutely,
it's a great thing, and our royal family is very well thought of around the world. Yeah,
of course, this is quite a different time as well, isn't it? Where there are some international markets opening for us that perhaps weren't there in the past, or and to actually go to trade directly with other countries rather than be part of a trading bloc. I guess having this kind of award that you can show the quality of your company is going to be even more important.
Yeah, I mean, this is why they are very, very careful to make sure that that the statements that you make about the achievements you've made are real. So you do have to explain, you have to explain everything you say. It's not like a sales pitch where you can go and go like, we're the best.
Yeah.
You have to actually say, well, actually, we're the best because these are the figures that support it. So you do have to be a little bit careful on that. But other than that, no, absolutely. It's an endorsement. It's somebody that's looked at that company and said they have achieved what they said they achieved. And it's a great thing to do.
Yeah. Having reviewed plenty of award applications in the past, that is something that's often lacking. It's demonstrate why you're good or how you've achieved this, as opposed to just telling us how fantastic you are. And clearly, if you're going to get a Queen's Award, you will have done that very clearly through that process. I also really like the fact that it's an honour that you achieve, as opposed to it being, we've got tuning in today Brad Parks from Specsavers, who are a really widely awarded organisation with Solihull. Well, I can tell you, if Touchwood end up in the same pool as Specsavers for an award, I'm immediately getting worried, you see. But of course, in this system, both Specsavers and Touchwood could be awarded, because it's absolutely down to have you fulfilled these criteria.
Absolutely, yeah, and it never ceases to amaze me. We'll have JCB in one section, and then we'll have somebody who's employing 10 people, and still that it's about valuing their achievements and recognising their achievements proportionately.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, you also, it was great to hear you mention Lush. Now Lush are one of my tenants here in Solihull.
Okay.
And they're one of our top performing stores, but also they've done really well in this past 2 years. where they've been able to harness online and physical stores. So they've continued to show that innovation in the way they operate. So no surprise that they've won an award previously for innovation. Now let's throw some questions open to the floor. We've got some great questions that have popped up. Brad asks, are the Queen's Awards self-nominated or are you nominated by others?
So the Queen's Awards for Enterprise are self-nominated. The honours system well, I suppose I don't know. I think probably I'm better ask Andrea about that.
Yes. And Andrea, are you able to come in on that generally for honours? Just on mute at the moment, Andrea.
Sorry. The honours system, you can nominate via the government website, but obviously people like me within various councils can nominate on, for people as well. If I'm given a suggestion, if you know somebody within your business or anywhere else, just give me a name, a couple of people who also know that person, and I'll get working on it for you.
Brilliant.
But you don't normally self-nominate, do you?
No.
Not for those awards. No. I have to say it was a huge surprise for me. I thought I got a letter through from the Prime Minister's office, and I was always doing like evidence sessions on committees and things, and I thought, oh really? And I left it. I didn't open it for a week, and I thought I'll sit down with a glass of wine and open all my posts. And I opened it, and I was sitting with the dog, and all I could do was tell the dog that I'd won this award. It was really amazing. It was great. It was a great surprise. When I phoned up, they said, "Oh, we were worrying that you weren't going to accept it." And I thought, oh.
Yeah, it's been a week. We've not heard from Leslie. Yeah, what's going on? Yeah,
normally everybody rings the next day.
I bet they do. Yeah. No, brilliant.
Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
Now we've got a question from Isabel. We previously applied in 2020 and missed out, sadly. We received great feedback. I think, by the way, that's crucial, isn't it, for anything like this, that you do receive tangible feedback on how to improve. When reapplying this year, should we use a bulk of the information from the current application and make the relevant updates, i.e. repurposing the content, or would it all need to be brand new, fresh content? We want to make sure that we give it our best shot and try and obtain the award. Thank you.
Well, that's a very difficult question, because obviously I haven't seen what your last one looked like. But if you bear in mind this issue that if you feel you've told your story effectively, because there's no word count really, there's nothing stopping you from explaining things the way you want to explain them. But I think as long as you feel that you're telling the story, you're telling sort of how you got there, why you got there, what you did to achieve this, I think we just need to understand what you did. We're not judging you on it. We're not judging you in the sense that we're not saying, well, I've not done it like that, I'd have done it like this. We're saying, how did you do this? This is great. We're so pleased to see and recognize great achievements. And I think what we're all trying to do is learn from each other. So, as long as you feel that your award applications, but I would suggest that quite a lot's changed in that time, and it might be sensible to really revisit it and perhaps get an outsider to just have a look through and see whether or not it makes sense. Because updating things, sometimes you leave things a bit higgledy-piggledy, don't you?
Yeah, and it is great sometimes to get a third party to have a look at what you've done and say, this is the criteria. Have you actually, I'm not sure if you've answered this all particularly in that section, but it's great that you're getting quality feedback from the Queen's Awards, and then you can use that to make sure you fill those gaps, I guess, next time.
Absolutely. And if it's not the international trade one, I'm more than happy to talk to you about it.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Now, John's asked, will you be circulating copies of the presentation? And the answer to that is quite simple, John. Yes, we will. We're also recording this webinar, so this will be uploaded onto the Chamber YouTube page. You can watch that back at your leisure, along with some of the other great stuff that we've been doing too. Now, Isabel has another question. What you mentioned as a numerical factor, she's asking what numerical factor defines as steep and what numerical factor defines as continuous. So this is in demonstrating your performance over.
Yeah. Well, this is very much about the assessor's opinion of these things as well. But obviously, when we're looking at, say, a continuous in the international trade one, it has to be 6 years, and you can see it's a steady growth. But if you're going for the outstanding, you can, I mean, you know yourself that it's, first of all, we say it's got to be a minimum of 100,000. And if it's going up 100,000 and then it went up to 105,000, it's still growth, but it's not outstanding. And we would probably encourage you to go for the more of the continuous award. But honestly, it's all about your company. It's not about, there isn't a hard and fast. The hard and fast is the 100,000, I would suggest.
Yeah, super, thank you. And John also asked, COVID has depressed sales over the past year. Will that be taken into account? And I think you explained that very well in that, you can take that final year that, I know we always talk about last year, and that 2020 that was super tough. You can actually go back a year prior, can't you, to look at those numbers as well? Yeah. Of course, there will have been some businesses that actually, really thrived during 2020, came out of nowhere, and could become, contenders because of last year. But I think for the most of us, it was really tough, wasn't it? Now, let's have a look. In light of the award being held for 5 years, do successful winners tend to reapply every 5 years?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they do. In fact, actually, sometimes people apply year on year, but it's entirely up to you if you want to do it like that. I mean, we did have one that applied 5 years solidly and won 5 years solidly, but it's quite unusual to do that. It's about time as well, isn't it? You don't, if you've got it for 5 years, really, do you really need to keep on and on applying? But it depends on what you get from it. As I say, if you get more and more from the publicity, and even the Queen's Awards magazine that they send out, the catalogue about all the winners, that's a really useful tool to share with people and get out there. It's if you're part of a gang and as a elite gang as this, then show it to your customers, make sure everybody appreciates it. And if that means doing it every couple of years, well, do it. Do whatever your marketing tells you to do. But it is all about helping you with your marketing and promoting yourself internationally.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Now, Mick asks, the term social mobility can be interpreted in different ways. Leslie, do you have a view on the meaning in context of the Queen's Awards?
Honestly, it's not my area. I mean, for me, social mobility is about being able to work in different places and to be able to achieve different things in different places. But honestly, I think there is a criteria on the site, and I would encourage you just to look at that. I'm sorry, that's not my expertise.
Okay, all right.
Oh, Chris knows. You're muted.
So,
if it would help, Tony, I've literally looked on the site to say that the organisation must have supported people from disadvantaged backgrounds in improving job skills. This includes doing one of the following for at least 2 years: provide work experience or careers advice, mentoring, offering interview and job-related training, and making sure your recruitment process is open to everyone. So that's an illustration of the sort of thing they're looking for. But it's very easy to find on the government website under Queen's Awards, and those are the criteria.
It's actually part of the presentation as well. So there's a slide on it there. Perhaps just revisit that as well. Yeah,
no, brilliant. Thank you. Now, something that I thought was really good is this huge window between May and September that you've got to apply. Again, so many awards give you 4-6 weeks maybe. But that's a really good amount of time to, even if you're only hearing about this now for the first time, you've got enough time to do a really thorough application, haven't you? And give it all the time that it requires.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time it's about producing the evidence and putting your accounts in, because you have to have audited accounts or you have to have signed accounts so that we can see that it's actually, as I said earlier, you know, that you've achieved what you've said you've achieved.
Thank you. Now, as a judge for these awards, do you take into consideration other awards that people have won, maybe through the chambers where they've, you know, won enterprise? It's all down onto this defined criteria.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm afraid so. I mean, really,
Yeah.
we wouldn't discourage anybody from doing any of those awards because it's great to be recognised as many times as you can be.
Yeah.
But the Queen's Awards is about Queen's Awards.
Sure. Okay.
You know, and we're not, you know, we don't say, oh, somebody's won that, so obviously they've got to win a Queen's Awards. We still make them jump through all the hoops, and there are many more hoops to jump through, we know, for the Queen's Awards for Enterprise than there are for some of the other awards. You know, that's how it operates.
Sure.
You don't get the Queen to say that that's something that it, you know, put her name to something if it's not got that sort of in-depth integrity check on it all.
Okay, no, that's great, thank you. Now, Andrea, the Solihull honours. Now, we talked about those. You don't tend to self-nominate for those.
No.
So, talk to us about some of the awards. You know, I'm lucky enough to be involved in that process as one of the sponsors. But can you tell us about some of the ways that we honour people in Solihull as well, in general?
Yeah, I mean, Tony's on our panel for the Solihull Civic Honours, and they're the very, very local ones. We run those every year. Unfortunately, because of what's been happening and the fact we couldn't physically put on our usual celebratory event in the Civic Suite in Solihull, we couldn't do that last year, and I'm not even sure if it's carrying on this year. However, I am working on BMs, MBEs, OBEs, CBEs all the time for people within Solihull Borough, either living in it or working in it or both. And, you know, they continue. And so for community, people in the community, the BMs, if you're running a coffee shop or in a village hall or something like that, or swimming lessons or anything like that, I'm putting people forward all the time, and the announcements are June and New Year, and they're a rolling programme that I do for those. And what we do as well with the Civic Honours people, I kind of obviously read through all of those all the time, and some of those I put forward for Queen's Honours as well, the very best ones as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's great for our local business community. Well, just the wider community that we've got somebody like you, Andrea, looking out for us all and putting people forward where they deserve to be recognised. And you know, I would love to see more representatives from Solihull, from the wider West Midlands, achieving that Queen's Award. Now, I believe I've got another question here that I need to have a look, see if I can find it from Brad. Sam, could you find that question? I can't seem to find that one.
Yes, so there's a couple of extra questions that have come through to our speakers today. So Brad has asked the question about the categories. Obviously the 4 categories we've mentioned don't reflect Brad and his business at the moment, but Brad's asked, do the categories change each year or are they the same?
No, they stay the same, they stay constant.
Fabulous. And then we've also got a question from Claire at Digital Glue. So does the application need to be a written submission, and can you include photos, images and videos, for example?
To be quite honest, I'm not sure about that. Andrea might know better, but it's an online application, so you have to upload some details, you have to upload files, but I've never seen a video. But sometimes people make reference to websites, and we do, when we're doing the due diligence, we do check people's websites and we do check their accounts and, you know, their business structure, as it were. So I'm not sure. Andrew, do you know about uploading videos?
No, I haven't seen that personally on you know, the nominations I've done, or I've seen a link sometimes on the central government cabinet office forms, but not on the ones that we use. No.
Somebody's just flashed up saying you can submit a video, but I've never seen a video, so I'm not sure about that. I'm really happy to check and get back to you about it.
Brilliant.
Chris,
Thank you.
If I might, John is one of my fellow deputy lieutenants who looks after Solihull,
Okay.
and whose companies have really recently won an award. So I think we can be confident that you can submit a video. Though I do think was it Claire's point? Yeah, to Claire's point, I think there's probably some work for the Cabinet Office to do now to think about how we bring ourselves up in line with how companies are communicating, because more and more, as she infers, is done through image, video, photos, etc. So it's good that you are able to, but I suspect over the next few years you might see that being revised.
Super, thank you.
Sorry, Tony, and there's just one more in the Q&A from Alex. And Alex, it's quite a good one, actually. I mean, I know we've got Leslie on the call today, but about providing details of, I suppose, the judging panels, who's going to be reviewing the entries prior to the final submission.
Sorry, what was the question? They want to know who's going to do it.
Yeah, so I suppose obviously you get the final submission, and if obviously you go through the whole process and you review it and you do your due diligence. Prior to that, for the final submission, are the people in the background reviewing those applications as they go through?
That's what we call the assessors. The assessors are the people that do the whole do the whole searching, due diligence, that sort of thing, make sure that the veracity of the process, and then they submit to us as the first judging panel, the ones that they think fulfill the criteria and the achievements, and then from there we put ours to the Cabinet Office for approval.
Lovely, thanks, Leslie. Hopefully that's everyone's questions in there.
That's brilliant. So I think that's all of our questions. So I would like to thank everybody for joining us this morning. A special thanks to Leslie Batchelor, OBE, to Chris Loughran, to Andrea Crowther for joining us, and of course Sam Prampton, head of Solihull Chamber. Really insightful. I absolutely want to see in a year's time, maybe we'll revisit this subject and we'll be talking about how West Midlands has dominated the Queen's Award because so many people have met the criteria. And a really important year that we need to be sharing each other's success. The Chamber really is the best place to be able to do that with unrivaled thought leadership, resource, helping us navigate through these choppy waters ahead. We've got so much talent. We've got everything lying ahead of us. Let's have a fantastic year, and thank you all for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.